Mona,
Yeah.
what's up?
How you doing, babe? Ain't see you in a minute.
Who are you?
I am Mona BODE. I am born and raised in Harlem. Excuse me. Born in the Boogie Down. I moved to Harlem in the early 90s, and I am a poet, a producer, photographer. I am an all-around Renaissance woman.
What's the boogie down, Mona?
The Bronx, the South Bronx.
What year you was born?
I was born in 1966.
So you 59?
Yes, I am.
What nationality are you?
Afro-Cuban, black and Cuban, and my dad was American Indian and Irish, so I got a mix of stuff going on.
What was it like growing up in the Bronx in the 70s?
Well, the 70s I was young. I was born in 66, so you figure 70, I was from 4 till whatever. You know what, it's funny. I grew up in the hood, right? I grew up in the ghetto.
Where?
I grew up on Longwood Avenue and Fox Street.
In the Bronx?
In the Bronx.
Is that the South Bronx?
The South Bronx. And growing up in the South Bronx, for me, as a young girl, I didn't know I was poor. My mother never, because my mother was a school teacher. My dad was he worked for Park Sausages. He was a truck driver.
Two-parent household?
No, one parent. My mother and my father split when I was young, when I was about 5 or 6. But, that's another story. Anyway, but my mother lived on one floor. My great-grandmother lived on, and my grandfather lived on another floor, and my aunt and my uncle lived. So the whole building, a lot of my family lived we were all in the same area, pretty much in the same building. And so growing up, I didn't feel poor.
You went to elementary school in the Bronx?
Yes, I did, yeah. I went to PS 60. I don't even think that school is there anymore. PS 60.
So you grew up with just your mother?
My mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, and my grandfather, my cousin, everybody was always, my family was, when I was young, family was everything when I was growing up.
What about your relationship? What about your pops?
My dad, I love my father. I don't like nobody talk about my daddy. I love my dad.
Why you love him, Mona?
Because why are you asking me all these questions? Why do I love my dad? Because of the way my mother treated him.
How did she treat him?
She was angry. She was a woman scorned. My dad, he wasn't a cheater. He worked hard, but he drank a lot. So she would have to go get him out the bars, and just whatever they did in the 60s and the early 70s is what happened. I don't know the whole story. I just know what I heard, But I know that my dad loved my mother, and I remember having a conversation with him. And I remember I was telling him, Daddy, you need to go find you another girlfriend. Mine ain't waiting for you. Mine ain't even thinking about you. He said, no, one day, sure. I'm like, Daddy, let it go. I was like, let it go, Dad.
But you was a daddy's girl?
Yes. Yeah.
He loved you?
Absolutely. I'm the baby. I was the baby. Loved me to death. I am Kenny's daughter.
How many brothers and sisters you got?
It's just me. I'm an only child.
Mona, what do you think about that fatherly love to the daughter? What did that instill in you?
That's a good question. I believe that how you are raised, or how your relationship with your father as a woman will kind of dictate how you will treat or allow to be treated as an adult, if that makes sense.
By men and women, or just men?
It's about men.
Your relationship with men going forward is dependent upon your relationship with your father growing up, you saying?
It used to be. At this point, I'm 60 years old. I'm not even, thinking about that. But growing up, yes, you know, because daddy was like, no, you're my daughter, and you ain't gonna let nobody, I don't want nobody to treat you any kind of way other than very respectful. He was very old country boy from North Carolina, South Carolina, I'm sorry, Bluefield, West Virginia. He's from Bluefield, West Virginia. He had 16 other brothers and sisters. He grew up in the mountains. You know, he was very, you know, he was a good man. He just had problems. He was alcoholic. He suffered alcoholism.
When you moved to Harlem?
I moved to Harlem in 1990.
How old are you?
I was 25, 24, something like that.
So you in the Bronx from 1966 to 1990?
Right.
You finished high school in the Bronx?
Yes, I did. I'm sorry, with myself.
Right there.
Yeah, I finished high school.
What kind of student were you?
I was a straight A student. My mother was a school teacher. She wasn't playing that shit. She wasn't playing that at all. You are going to go to school, you know, and, you know, it's just, there's a whole nother dynamic behind all that. But yeah, that's the gist of it. I got my GED though. I didn't graduate from high school. I got my GED later.
Why'd you come to Harlem?
You know, this is a good story. Let me tell you something. When I was in high school, I started high school, it was 1980. I went to a school called A. Philip Randolph High School. At that time...
Where's that at?
I'm going to tell you now. Hold on. When I went there, they were located on 139th and Amsterdam, right?
In Harlem?
In Harlem. In West Harlem. And so... I started school there. At that time, it was only like 8 graduating classes because it was a new school, right? And I was in there, and from the day I went to school, and I came into that neighborhood, which is like 6 blocks away from my house, I said, when I grow up, I'm gonna live in West Harlem. And the apartment I live in right now, that I've been in for 35 years, is 6 blocks or so away from the school I went to.
Why did you fall in love with Harlem like that?
I don't know what it is about Harlem. And believe me, I'm a BX girl. I love the Bronx. I learned how to survive in the Bronx. I learned how to hustle in the Bronx. I went through my hardships in the Bronx, and I got my shit together in Harlem though. You understand? I always knew I was gonna live in Harlem. I don't know what it is about Harlem. I love the BX, but I love Harlem.
So you was in the Bronx in the 80s.
Yeah.
New York in the 80s.
Yes.
Talk about New York in the 80s.
Yeah.
With the crack epidemic, the whole joint.
Absolutely. Talk about it?
Yeah.
Huh. We want to know.
Is it like New York now?
Absolutely not. It was worse. But it was, we just, let me
It
try
seemed like it was more exciting to me back then, man.
It was hard back in the day, man. People was getting knocked left and right back in the day. A few of my girls, I've seen people get shot. A girlfriend of mine got shot right in the head in the building, in an abandoned building. Back in the 80s, most of the buildings in the neighborhood were abandoned. So you be walking, my best girlfriend, she was, I think it was like 82. She was kidnapped, she was raped, and she was killed. And they found her body in one of them big green garbage cans in Crotona Park in the Bronx. So it was rough. So it was, you had to just watch, you got to still watch where you go and here now, but it ain't like it was back in the day. It was worse.
Did you get caught up in that life in the Bronx,
Sure
Mona?
Sure did.
Could you add some color to that?
I could, a little bit. My stepsister was introduced me to this guy. It was around my birthday. I was about 18, and he was a lower level. I hate to say it like that, but he was a coke dealer. He was trying to holler. I was like, nah, nigga, you too old. At that time, I'm 18. This dude's about 45 or something like that, and I was like, nah, not happening. He's like, all right, well, how about I teach you everything I know about what I do and we make some money. I was like, okay, let's get it. So I moved to Co-op City in the Bronx. And
With him?
yes. He had a 2-bedroom spot on the 5th floor in this building in Co-op City. And yeah, we was making money, but we wasn't doing it properly. When I think about it now, in retrospect, very sloppy, very sloppy. My body, the guy that he used to, like, he was like the bodyguard, but he was just like the guy because he was a boxer and he fought karate and stuff. So he was always around just that kind of like watch us, follow, help us out. His name was George, and he was murdered in that apartment, and the apartment got robbed a few times. By this point, I had left because him and my business partner had got into a beef. And I was like, nah, I forgot what the beef was about, but I remember saying, nah, I'm not doing that. I'm out of here, bro. I need to go home. I was sniffing so much cocaine, man. I became paranoid. I had that paranoid psychosis from sniffing. I mean, it's there. You can sniff it anytime you want. And as much as I wanted to say fucking no, man, I'm telling you, as much as I was like, man, I don't want to do this no more. As soon as they pass the bill, you got to do it. You know the saying. You're saying yes when you really want to say no. And that was me back in that day, yeah. And it lasted a few years. And it didn't last. It lasted about maybe a year or 2 years. And then I left. And by that time, things was rough for me then for a little while.
In your early 20s?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my early 20s, it was kind of rough.
So you spent a few more years in the Bronx and then you come over to Harlem.
Right.
What happens when you get to Harlem in 1990?
Get that apartment and I'm like, shit, I got to this is good. I like this shit. And at this point, I had let me back up a little bit. So I had my daughter, right? In 87. Started doing all this other stuff, right? So like 87, so I started, 84 is when I met old boy. We started doing what we was doing. It was never nothing sexual ever. It was just strictly business. And 87, I had my daughter, and I'm still, but at this point, I'm fucked up. I'm fucked up. And what I mean by I'm fucked up, I was strung out on cocaine, right? And so I went into a program. I didn't stay because I don't like this bullshit. This shit is bullshit. This shit is whack. And I just went to where people go that don't want to go to a program. I don't want to announce, because anonymity. And so I started doing that. And by that time, I got the dates confused. You gotta excuse me. My dates are. You gonna edit all this? Are you gonna edit this?
No, hell no, we ain't editing. You know how we getting down.
Okay, so I had my daughter in 87.
You go to the program, you leave, you ain't with it, you come out.
I'm still messed up.
Still messed up.
My daughter, I got pregnant with my son, right? And at this point, I'm homeless because my mother said, no, I'm taking your daughter, get your shit together, and then you come get your child. You're not gonna put her through all of that. Fine. And this is the first time I'm sharing this shit live, and nobody knows this part of my life. Nobody knows this part of my life, only people we know. And so I went into a shelter for pregnant women, and
in Manhattan?
Yeah, on 50th Street.
Midtown.
Midtown. On Midtown. And got this apartment, and I've been here ever since.
Okay, your son is born.
My son is born.
Do you get clean at this point?
I'm already clean at this point. Yeah, I'm already clean at this point.
Why did you get clean? Why did you decide to get clean?
I never liked getting high to begin with. Do you understand? I did it for friendship. I did it for acceptance. I did it because everybody else is doing it. I don't want to look like the square. You know what I mean? So I'm just gonna do what everybody else is doing. Not really liking it. Not liking this shit, really liking this shit at all, man. I didn't even like to drink. I didn't grow up like that. That's not how I grew up. You know?
Your son is born, you
Right.
get clean, you living in Harlem,
Right.
and what's going on now in your life? You get your apartment,
Right.
you're in your mid to late 20s.
Right.
What's happening now?
Work. Gotta work. Got a job. I was working for New York Hospital. Then I got another job. I had 2 jobs. I was working New York Hospital and I was working in a detox rehab for people trying to get clean. And then I started working for, dates, don't ask me dates because I don't remember. And then I started working for transit. And I did that until I didn't retire. I quit. I resigned in 1996 when my son died. I'm sorry, 2016 when my son died. My son was murdered in 2016 in Atlantic City.
He was murdered in Atlantic City?
Mm-hmm.
Can we talk about that?
Sure, we can.
I remember your son.
Mm-hmm.
How did he end up from Harlem to Atlantic City?
Okay, well, when in 2000, this is a whole story.
Let's go.
In 2000, I was diagnosed with MS, with multiple sclerosis, right? I had symptoms since 92, but I was diagnosed on paper with MS. Doctor said, hey, whatever's going on in your life is stressing you out, get rid of it, right? So at the time I was dealing with this dude and it was the worst. And so I cut him loose and my son, they were looking at private schools for my son because my son had this hyperactivity thing and it was just a lot. I put him in private school and he enjoyed going to private school, which in turn gave me some kind of relief, right? And so, but the downfall to that was he became so independent, being alone in this place he was in, the school he was in. He had so much freedom that when he finished school, he was like, I'm doing what I want to do, ma. And I'm like, you know. So he started dealing, you know, he became a product of the street. I did the best I could as a parent, you know. So I don't beat myself up about that. You know, I did my due diligence as a parent to that boy, to that young man. And he ended up getting knocked. He ended up doing like 6 years in prison from the time he was like 18 or something like that. And he came out in 2016. He was home for 4 months, right? And he was home for, like, he got home in 2000 what year was that? I don't even remember. He came home in 2000, it was like a 9/11 thing, like 4 months before 9/11 in 2016. Came home, I got him a job. My stepdaughter, her husband got him a job. He's working in the Bronx. He's working at the the warehouses in the back of Harlem Hospital, in the back of my words are all messed up. In the back of Hunts Point.
Yep.
Hunts Point Market, right?
Yep.
In the back of Hunts Point Market. He's got a job. He's doing his thing. He said one day, you know what, Ma, I don't want to do this no more. I'm going back to AC. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you going back to AC? Just stay here. He said, nah, this girl think that I have a kid with her. I need to go find out what's going on with that. And I'm like, okay, just call me, let me know. You know, at this point, he's a grown man. I can't tell him what and what not to do at this point.
How old is he at this point?
He was 24. And yeah, he went out there and he came back. And then one day he said, Umi, I'm going back to AC. I'll be back tomorrow. He called me that night. We stayed on the phone for about an hour. We're talking and joking. I didn't hear nothing back from him. Let me share this. That night, the night before my son passed away, we were on the phone. And he said to me, Umi, well, I'm Muslim, and he was Muslim too. So, and Umi is mother in Arabic, right? So he said to me, Umi, I just want to tell you, I want to thank you for being such a great parent. I want to thank you for doing the best you could. I'm so grateful that you my mother, right? And then he said, I am so sorry if I gave you any trouble or any hardship. I'm so sorry, but I do love you, Ma. I love you so much. He said, you're the best. We had the greatest conversation the night before he passed, right? So I'm talking and and then he started telling me jokes and we're laughing and we're joking. And I said, all right, Papi, look, go to bed. I'll holler at you tomorrow. I'll call you in the morning, or you call me when you wake up and you come home. Just come home. He said, all right, I'm going to come home tomorrow. And that was it.
How'd he pass?
He was shot in the head, set him up. It was a setup. Yeah. You know, my son, I am grateful for that last conversation, because I was a mess. But that conversation gave me some kind of comfort, if that makes sense. And then, you know, my son he was a product of the street. He became that, what people talk about, I forgot the saying. It was a saying that they used to say, where we go, or where we used to go. I forgot the saying. I can't think of the saying right now. But he became that person. And, you know, he lived his life the way he wanted to live his life. I did the best I could as a parent. And what I say is how God said, that's it, you did enough.
To you?
No.
To him?
To him. You've done enough. You've lived your life as far as you're gonna go. You know. I mean, that's just how I think. And that helps me get through some of the days when I first lost my son, when I try to do that. And
to yourself?
Yeah. Yeah, it was rough. That was right. That was 10, matter of fact, this is
2025.
9 years ago. They caught the guy like 2 months after. He's still in jail. He got 20 years. He should have got life, but, you know, he won't hurt nobody's son for a little while, you know?
So you started causing harm to yourself?
Yeah. Yeah, the first 6 months or so, I was trying to kill myself any way I could off myself. I was trying to, I started smoking like 3 packs of cigarettes a day, because I'm like, okay, if I smoke, maybe I'll just get cancer, and I'll just, I'm not thinking straight. I'm looking for trouble in the street, and
you're grieving.
Oh man, I was a mess. Are you kidding me? I was like, I just want somebody to just take this pain away from me. It was bad, you know. And it wasn't until I went into therapy. Like my neighbor, she one day I was walking. This is like around that time when he had just passed away, and she had came up to me. She said, Mona, you know, I go to therapy right on 145th Street, and the therapists there are really nice, you know. Maybe you could. And I'm looking at her like, bitch, you need to mind your business, right? But I ain't say that because of the way she came at me. Because there have been a couple people prior, you know, you need to do this, you need to mind your motherfucking business. You lost a child? No? Shut the fuck up. You know. So, it's the way she came at me. So I'm like, you know, I really wasn't paying any attention. And then finally, one day I was like, look, I need to do something. Because if not, I'm going to die. I'm really going to succeed this time.
And what'd you do?
I went to and registered for therapy, mental health therapy.
Did it help?
I'm still in therapy today. It's been 9 years and I'm still in therapy. Speak to my doctor every 2 weeks. It used to be every week, but now it's every 2 weeks.
You didn't pick up the drug?
Not at all. Not at all. It ain't gonna change nothing. There's a lot of things going on that I'm not gonna share on here, but there was a lot of stuff that was going through my head. I'm going to Jersey. I don't know. And one of my good friends, he said to me, he's like, stop for a minute. Just stop for a second. I need you to just chill for a moment. What the fuck do you mean I need to chill for a minute? Did you lose it? He's like, Mona, please just chill. This is a good friend of mine. He's down with the Nation of Islam. And he was telling me, look, just chill. So I'm trying to calm down, and I don't know. I went into therapy, and like for the first 6 months or so, I would go every week, and we would talk, and I'd cry, and most of the time, and the doctor would say, well, how do you feel? And I'm like, this shit don't work. He says, why it don't work? I said, because this is for white folks. This ain't for me. I ain't white. This ain't for me. Black people don't go to therapy. We just do what we got to do. This shit ain't helping. And I did that to my doctor for 6 months. And then one day, we had a conversation, and we're talking, he's doing his therapy thing, and he said to me, so how do you feel? I said, I don't know, Doc. I don't feel like I did yesterday. He said, well, that's a step in the right place. I've been in therapy for 9 years. Grateful that I gave myself a chance before I try to really commit an act that I can't come back from.
So you move on from that.
Right.
And you move on with your life. This is 2016?
That was 2016 to date. All that happened in that time.
And you are a poet. Mm-hmm. Talk about your poetry. How long, when did you know, we know you're a poet. When did you know that you had a gift for that? Did an old elementary school teacher or high school teacher or somebody say, Mona, add some color to that whole poetry thing?
I don't know how that shit happened. I honestly don't know how that shit happened, man. A friend of mine at the time, we were friends at the time, and she was a poet. I used to dibble and dabble a little bit, but it was never really my thing. And then I don't know, I can't even say when. I just know that one day I started writing, and we started writing, and then I started a poetry event called Microphone Fiends, and I said, at the show that day, I said, I have this erotic poem, and everybody's like, yeah, do the poem. And I was like, yo, I don't know if I could do this. And so
erotic poem.
Right, an erotic poem. So I started doing the erotic poem, right? One of the young boys came and sat at my foot and grabbed my leg, and he's like, I love you, Mona, right? So, and I'm trying to read this poem, right? But now my face is red, my ears are red, I'm hot, and I'm so nervous, and I'm so embarrassed, right? Because, women ain't supposed to speak like that. We're not supposed, this is where I come from. And when I finished the poem, everybody was clapping, and I was like, I kind of like this.
And
I'm a beast at this point.
You're a beast?
Oh, I'm a beast at this point.
What you mean, Mona?
Oh man, you got to hear some of my stuff. I just I just wrote some new stuff. I have an all erotic CD called, I could find it. You want me to find it? So you could pass it on to your people, and maybe you could listen to it.
You still write?
Yeah, I just wrote some new stuff. I was thinking about writing another book, because I have two erotic books and one book that's erotic. It was my first book was regular poetry and then erotic poetry. The last two, my second book, the G-Spot Chronicles, whew, dope.
What's the name of it, Mona?
The G-Spot Chronicles.
It's a book.
Yeah. And
is there a link where they can find it?
You can find it on Amazon.
What if they contacted you on your DM? Could
They
you get?
contact me and they can get the ebook through me, which is better because everybody's doing ebooks now.
Y'all, all those links for all Mona's social media and books is
I
going
might
to be
have to
underneath
send
this
them to
video.
you. I might have to send them to you because I am not going to try to do that shit right now.
No. We
Yeah,
send
I'll
it
do
to
it. I'll make sure you get it by the end of today. You'll have all that
those
stuff.
links are going to be in the description and in the comment section.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
I just finished because I also do music. I'm a house music artist. How that happened? I'm doing the poetry, right? So one of my friends, may Allah be pleased with him, he passed away, Anthony, and he came up to me. He was like, "Yo, Mona, I need you to write a poem about house music." I'm like, "What?" I was like, "All right, give me a minute. Let me try to figure this out, right?" Because I'm a house head. I come from disco to house music, hip hop, disco to house music. That's what it was for me. That's how I went, and I've been stuck on hip hop, on house music. Every now and then I go back to hip hop because hip hop is always going to be my love because that's what I learned first when I was in the Bronx. And the house music, but I did. So he told me, "Yeah, I need you to do this." I wrote something. He came, he recorded it, and that track's still making money. The name of the track is called "My First Love." If you Google Mona BODE, MONABODE, all my stuff will come up. If you Google "My First Love," Mona BODE, my very first house music track that was in 2010. Yeah.
So Mona, you're artistic.
Yeah, I didn't realize
You're an artist.
I'm an Aquarius.
So what does that mean?
Aquarius are very eclectic. We're very weird. They call us weirdos and stuff, and I don't care. Call me a weirdo if you want. I do a lot. Poetry. I do engineering as far as music. I am a photographer. I do erotic photography also. I am a writer. I just finished writing my first novel, which is loosely based on this chick I know in the Bronx. I knew in the Bronx. And it's called The Good Old Days. And I just finished that book, and I'm working on my second book right now.
Everybody go support Mona's books, man. Mona,
Yeah.
you just said that Aquarius people, they say y'all are weird.
Weirdos,
But
we're
then you
weirdos.
said, right after that, you said, but I don't care though. So what that indicates is that you have a high self-esteem and a high self-confidence, and you have a high self-acceptance.
I grew that as I got older. Because when I was young, very self-conscious, very, I didn't have, my self-esteem was not where it is now. Today, I'll wear 2 different shoes if I feel like it and 1 sock if I feel like it. That's just how I am at this point. I don't care. If that makes sense.
How important is self-esteem and self-confidence and self-love and self-acceptance?
Are you kidding me? How important? It's very important. Because if you end up doing what other people want you to do and trying to follow Joe Schmo, you're not gonna, it's not a good look.
Why do you think your self-esteem and self-love and wasn't where it was in your younger years?
Because I was very young, I was inexperienced, and you learn as you grow. You learn as you get older. The mistakes we made when we were younger are not the same mistakes I'm gonna make today. The way I used to be when I went the shy person, the shy Mona, and the low self-esteem Mona, that's not who I am today, not anymore. And as I got older, I started growing up.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You have a podcast.
Yes, it's called Uptown with Mona.
Where can we find that podcast?
On YouTube.
That link is underneath here, y'all. Where else?
All you got to do is put everything that I do is on my YouTube channel, Mona BODE 125, which is my birthday.
January 25th.
January 25th is my birthday, and 125 because I live near Harlem. Because I live in Harlem. I live like 5-6 blocks from 125th Street.
Mona, mistakes and failures.
Yes.
Add some color to that.
Mistakes and failures. Well, mistakes. I could say the main mistake would be not listening to my mother. You know, when I was younger. You know, because I had a whole plan when I was in high school, you know. The plan, I'm going to give you my 5-year plan. I was going to finish high school. I was going to join the Air Force. I was going to go to learn how to do airplane mechanics while in the Air Force. And in interim of that, go to college because I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be an obstetrician. And that was my plan. What happened to that plan? I met a boy. That's the end of that story. Met a boy. Kind of threw my whole shit off.
You were smart in school, Mona, because to get into the Air Force.
Very. I was smart. Very smart. I'm still smart. I'm still smart most of the time. Now at this point, I'm like, man, I don't even want to think right now. I don't be thinking.
What about when people make mistakes and failures in their lives and they quit and give up?
I would say, get your shit together. Fuck that bullshit. I have to tell myself that. I used to have to tell myself that, Mona, get your shit together, bro. I tell all my friends, I have a few homegirls that be going through this and that. I'm like, nigga, get your shit together. Get it together. Ain't nothing gonna change unless you change.
Mona, what do you think about the relationship with woman and man from a woman's perspective? Is it possible for there to be a successful relationship between woman and man? What's woman's role with a man? If you could add some color to that.
That depends on which era you're talking about.
There you go.
That depends on which era you're talking about. This era, women are too masculine. They're too. It's not like when I was growing up. See, I'm just to say, because I can't, you know, my words be all over the place. I grew up in an era where the women stayed home, took care of the house, father worked, the woman respected the man, they respected each other. It was, I can't even explain it. It was just it was a whole different feeling, a whole different dynamic. Now, these women today, you tell them something, they're ready to fight you. Women today have no discipline. Sorry, ladies. They have no discipline. And a lot of that also is the times. Times have changed. You understand? Times have changed. When we were growing up, we had our aunts, we had our grandparents, we had our mothers, we had our fathers, we had our neighbors. It was a whole different dynamic. Now, it's every man for himself. Ain't nobody trying to help anybody. There's nobody's trying to give anybody any type of advice. Everybody's minding their business with their head down in their phone.
That was from the woman's perspective, Mona. Now I need you to cross over the street and add some color to the man's perspective.
I'm not a man. How can I? Okay. Let me rephrase that. Let me say this. From the man's perspective.
The men from the era you grew up with to the men.
Oh yeah, the men in my era, they were hard workers. They were. I mean, I'm sure. I mean, I was young, so I can only go by what I saw. You know, there was always a man in the house. There was always, you know, whether they was doing whatever they was doing outside in the street. My aunt and my uncle have been married for 70 years. My uncle just passed away a few months ago, right? They were married for 70 years. I come from that. He worked for transit. My aunt she was a secretary for, She was an accountant. You know, kids, my cousin, my 2 cousins. I mean, that's what I saw growing up. You don't see that today.
What about the man in 2025? What do you see? How has he diminished or has he increased from?
He's become, what's the right word I want to use? Because I don't want to say the wrong thing. The men today are, I'm trying to find the right word. The men today, they need guidance. They don't have any guidance. Because again, it's a different era. The people that would be the men that were able to take the young man and say, "Come on, let's go to the park and play ball. Come on, let's go to the store.
Come take a ride with me."
Right, come take a ride with me. Let's talk. The men today, they don't do that. I don't see it. I don't know. I'm only talking about what I see.
Right.
You know. So it's a lot more one parent homes. Women are a lot of single women, and you know, they're doing what they got to do, whatever that may be. They're doing what they got to do. I don't knock anybody. No judgment here. But I wish I could go back to that era, to the 70s or the 80s.
Why?
Not even the 80s. Because it was a different time. It was more, it was a lot more love. You know, you got love from everybody. Like where I grew up on Fox Street, we all went to, all the kids, all of us went to school in the same neighborhood. We all lived in the same neighborhood. In the summertime, we all played in the park and played skelsies and all kinds of stuff. We had the nosy neighbor who sat in the window and watched everybody's kids, Miss Rosalie. Watch everybody's kids. If you want to know anything, ask Miss Rosalie. Miss Rosalie knows what's going on.
And she was gonna tell your mother when your mother got home.
Exactly. She was gonna tell if you was, and she would see you doing something. Mona, what you doing? You better get your behind upstairs before your mother come. Before I tell your mother, or whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Mona, this was a dope interview.
Yeah. Very dope.
You're very beautiful.
Thank you. I'm old. I'm getting old. But I appreciate it. I mean, let me accept the compliment. I'm sorry. Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And we're gonna follow up. Let's put this up and see what it do, and maybe we do follow up.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
All right, Mona. I'll see you later.
Later.
Bye-bye.